Alright, so let's go ahead and put that on. Um, alright, chapter 1. Chapter 1. Don't trust your eyes. Dr. Treadwell walked back and forth across the platform at the front of the auditorium. Her steps were slow and even, almost hypnotic. Your eyes deceive you every day, filling in the blanks for you in a world of sensory overload. An image of dizzy geometric detail lit up the canvas screen. Reminder, when I say sensory overload, I mean that quite literally at every moment. Your senses are receiving far more information than they can process all at once, and your mind is forced to choose which signals to pay attention to. It does that based on your experiences and your expectation of what is normal. Things we are familiar with the things we can, for the most part, ignore. We see this most easily with olfactory vaguitude. Your nose creases to receive a smell when you've been around it for a while. You may be quite thankful for the feminine, depending on the habits of your roommate. The glass did or dutifully, then became quiet as the image of another multicolored design flashed onto the screen. The professor gave a hint of a smile and continued. Your mind creates motion when there is none. It fills in colors and trajectories based on what you've seen before and calculates what you should be seeing now. Another image flashed onto the overhead screen. If your mind didn't do this then, simply walking outside and seeing a tree would consume all your mental energy, leaving no resources to do anything else. In order for your mind to function in the world, your mind fills in the spaces of that tree with its own leaves and branches, 100 pencils, scribbling all at once, filling the lecture hall with a sound like scurrying mice. Hey, Megan. It's why when you enter a house for the first time you experience a moment of dizziness. Your mind is taking in more than usual. It's drawing a floor plan, creating a palette of colors, and saving an inventory of images to draw on later. So you don't have to go through that exhausting intake every single time. The next time you enter that same house, you already know where you are. Charlie! Sorry if my voice isn't... Hey, Megan. Sorry if my voice doesn't sound too good for the reading. I'm trying. One thing is that I find awkward because my parents are right over there. Anyways, Charlie. An urgent voice whispered her name, inches from her ear. Charlie kept writing. She was staring straight ahead at the display at the front of the lecture hall as Dr. Treadwell went on. She paced faster, occasionally flinging an arm towards the screen to illustrate her point. Her words seemed to be falling behind as her mind raced on. Ahead, Charlie had realized by the second day of classes that her professor sometimes broke off in the middle of one sentence, only to finish an entirely different one. It was like she skimmed the text in her hand, writing out a few words here and there. Most of the students in her robotics class were, oh jeez, I forgot. Most of the students in a robotics class found it maddening, but Charlie liked it. It made lesson kind of like doing a puzzle. A screen flashed again, displaying an assortment of mechanical parts and a diagram of an eye. This is what you must recreate. Dr. Treadwell stepped back from, yes, what about the cats? Stepped back from the image, turning to look at it with the class. Basic artificial intelligence is all about sensory control. You won't be dealing with you ruined. Dang it, no. Good. You won't be dealing with the mind that can filter these things out for itself. You must design programs that recognize basic shapes while discarding unimportant information. You must do for your robot. You must do for your robot. Dang it, where was I? You must do for your robot what your own mind does for you. Create a simplified and organized assembly of information based on, based on what's relevant. Let's start by looking at examples of basic shape recognition. Okay, music's. Yes, I am playing Memory in the background. As you can see, hopefully. Charlie! Hissed the voice again, and she waved her pencil impatiently at the figure peering over her shoulder. Friend Artie, trying to shoo him away. Oh, come on. Okay. Oh. The gesture cost her a moment, but half a step behind the professor, she hurried to catch up, anxious not to miss a single line. The paper in front of her was covered in formulas, notes and the migraines, sketches and diagrams. She wanted to get everything all at once, not just the math, but all. The things it made her think of, if she could tie the new facts to the things she already knew, she'd retain it much more easily. She felt hungry for it. Alert, watching for new tidbits of information like a dog under the dinner table. A boy near the front raised his hand to ask a question, and Charlie felt a brief flare of impatience. Now the whole class would have to stop while Treadwell went back to explain a simple concept. Charlie let her mind wander, sketching absolutely in the margins of her notebook. John will be here, and she glanced restlessly at her watch. An hour. I told him. Maybe someday we'll see each other again. I guess it's someday. He had called out of the blue. I'm just going to be passing through, he said, and Charlie hadn't bothered to ask how he knew where she was. Of course, he would not know. He would know. There was no reason not to meet him, and she found herself alternately excited and filled with dread. Now absently, she absently sketched rectangle forms along the bottom of her notebook. Her stomach jumped, a little spasm of nerves. It felt like a lifetime since she last saw him. Sometimes it felt like she'd seen him yesterday, as if the last year hadn't passed, but of course it had. And everything had changed for Charlie once again. That May, the night of her 18th birthday, her dreams had begun. Charlie was long accustomed to nightmares. The worst moments of her past forced up like bile into twisted versions of memories already too terrible to recall. She shoved these dreams into the back of her mind in the morning and sealed them away, knowing they would only breach it when night fell. These dreams were different. When she woke, she was physically exhausted, not just drained but sore. Her muscles weak, her arms were stiff and aching, like they'd been clenched into fists for hours. These new dreams didn't come every night, but when they did, they interrupted her regular nightmares. It took them over. It didn't matter if she was running or screaming for her life, or wandered aimlessly through a dull mishmash of the various places she'd been all week. Suddenly, from nowhere, she would sense him. Sammy, her lost twin brother, was near. She knew he was present the same way she knew that she was present, and whatever the dream was, it dropped away. People, places, light, and sound. Now she was searching for him in the darkness, calling his name. He never answered. She would drop to her hands and knees, feeling her way through the dark, letting his presence guide her until she came to a barrier. It was smooth and cold metal. She couldn't see it, but she hit it hard with one fist and it echoed. "Sammy?" she would call, hitting harder. She stood, reaching up to see if she could scale the slick surface, but it stretched up far above her head. She beat her fists against the barricade until they hurt. She screamed her brother's name until her throat was raw, until she fell to the floor and leaned on solid metal, pressing her cheek to its cool surface and hoping for a whisper from the other side. He was there. She knew it as surely as if he were a part of herself. We knew in those dreams that she was present. Worse, when she was awake, she knew he was not there. In August, Charlie and Aunt Jen had their first fight. It had always been too distant. To really argue, Charlie never felt the need to rebel, because Jen provided no real authority, and Jen never took anything Charlie did personally. Never tried to stop her from doing anything, as long as she was safe. The day Charlie moved in with her at the age of 7, Aunt Jen had told her plainly that she was not a replacement for Charlie's parents. By now, Charlie was old enough to understand that Jen had meant it as a gesture of respect, a way to reassure Charlie that her father wouldn't be forgotten, that she would always be his child. But at the time, it had seemed like an admonishment. Don't expect parenting, don't expect love, and so Charlie hadn't. Jen had never failed to care for Charlie. Charlie had never wanted for food or clothing, and Jen had taught her to cook, to take care of the house, to manage her money, and fix her own car. You have to be independent, Charlie. You have to know how to take care of yourself. You have to be stronger than She'd cut herself off, but Charlie knew how. The sentence ended, then your father. Charlie shook her head, trying to jerk herself free from, dang it, free of her own thoughts. What's wrong? Artie said next to her. Nothing, she whispered. Nothing, she whispered. She ran her pencil again and again over the same lines. Up, over, down, over the graphite, weighing thicker and thicker. Charlie had told Jen that she was going back to the hurricane, and Jen's face turned stony. Her skin paling. Okay, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna be able to, literally read. Oh, wait, that's how many pages are on. Oh, no, it's only 8. When will the next chapter come? Oh, no, need you. If you don't. Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna read, I don't even know where the next chapter starts. Yeah, okay, this is probably gonna take way too long to get to the next chapter, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go to number 8 and leave it there. At least until tomorrow morning.